Pick your class and
earn your battle points.
Because it's time for the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. Welcome to episode 196 of the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and today I am joined by...
Me, Eckharts Ladder. Hello. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
And Andrew, I'm from Bombastic. How's it going, everyone?
Today we're going to be talking about Squadrons, overall thoughts, gameplay, and some of the more detail-oriented stuff about the game. Let's get started. So let's get started with kind of an overview of what both of you guys do. Let's get started with Eckharts.
What's my gig?
What's your gig?
Yeah, so my name is Justin. I run a couple of YouTube channels. The one I'm most well known for is Eckharts Ladder, which is a Star Wars, sci-fi, Halo YouTube channel focused mostly on lore. And then recently, especially since Star Wars Squadrons came out, I also have a second channel that I've been putting a lot of time into, X2, which is mostly gaming. Lots of live streams. Up until this point, mostly Empire at War, but now digging pretty heavily into Squadrons because I really, really love it.
Hey everyone, you might know me as Andrew from Bombastic. I cover all things Star Wars gaming on Bombastic, talk about Star Wars Squadrons, Jedi Fallen Order, made a lot of videos about that, Battlefront 2, Lego Star Wars, and every other random Star Wars game you can think of in between. My favorite game I've played this year is actually Star Wars Racer, going back to 1999.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
That brought back so many incredible memories, and it was just like such a nostalgia trip for me. And it's such a good game that holds up
The
today.
mechanics in that game are super solid. Like, it's not just cool because it's a
yeah,
pod
really
racer
tight.
game, but it's just like Mario Kart 64. Like the game, it seems just like a simple N64 thing, but then when you get in there, it's got such tight gameplay and mechanics.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, no, it really holds up.
It holds up on the nostalgia level and the gameplay level, which is it's really hard to find that for gaming, especially like in the 90s too, because you'll have like games that you grew up with as a kid and you're like, man, this is the best game ever. You go back to play and you're like, actually no.
This one, yeah, totally, you're right. This one actually surprised me in a way. I never played the full game back when I was a kid because my version used to crash all the time.
Oh,
I could
no.
only unlock a certain number of tracks before it would crash, and I could never save, so I'd have to restart the game each time I played. But going back and experiencing the full game now and realizing like the tracks are, all unique. They have shortcuts. There's a learning curve to them. You kind of have to, you can't win each track the first time you drive them just because of how difficult they can get. It's a real, gets really gamey, and I really love that about it.
Were you playing on the Switch, Andrew? Or did
No,
you?
I've actually got it on both, but mainly PS4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I forgot it was
Just
released on
for the
PS4.
controller, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I played through Shadows of the Empire, which was my favorite Star Wars game when I was a kid. That and Rogue Squadron, and it really didn't hold up very well.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
because it was my favorite game as a kid. But yeah, not the best as an adult. So I'm glad to hear that held up for you.
Are there many that hold up though? Like, if we're being honest, do many of the games still... I feel like the only reason Star Wars Racer works is because it is simply a racing game. And the devs said they wanted to make it like an eye-peeling racing experience where it's so fast that you're just like, you're not blinking basically. And I think that basic idea is what, pulls it through today. Whereas, some of the other games from back then, like I saw your video on Republic Commando and how much of a grind it can be.
I hate that game.
I still haven't finished it. I started playing it a few months ago. It's so hard,
sucks.
right? You just get stuck because it's like you run out of ammo, you don't have enough health. Battle droids take 30, 40 shots to kill. It's,
it's not. Well, that game doesn't have an excuse because that game came out like the same year as Halo 2, and like it's worse in like every possible way. Besides for maybe like UI. So I don't know. People give that game. A lot of people do like it because they like the slower based combat, but not for me.
I like the strategy in it's cool. I like how it, you have the multiple different weapons and you can tell your team where to go. I like that side of it. But in terms of having to put 30 rounds into a super battle droid, that's where it falls apart, I think.
Yeah. One that I played when we first got the PlayStation, we got the Darth Vader PlayStation for Battlefront 2. It came with like the the NES Star Wars game and the Star Wars Racer, Starfighter, and one that I really enjoyed, but it's kind of that same idea, grindy, is the Bounty Hunter game.
I never played that one.
Oh yeah.
It's really fun, but you get I've had to take week-long breaks from it. Okay, I got to take a break, otherwise I'm going to break my PlayStation.
Dude, that's another one. I
was gonna say I want to go back and try Rogue Squadron.
On that front, Rogue Squadron leads perfectly into the main topic of today's episode, Squadrons. So let's kind of go over your first reactions to Squadrons. When it got announced, what were your thoughts? Or when it got leaked and then announced, what were your thoughts?
I think I had heard some rumors going around. I wasn't really surprised when it got announced, but I was really excited. And that first, if we go all the way to the first reveal trailer, that trailer's amazing. I tweeted it the other day. But the music in that trailer, the cinematics, everything is just really great. And there are even a lot of hints in that little reveal trailer that it was going to be a game that I liked. It showed the pilot shunting power between different systems, kind of indicating that it'd be a bit deeper of a gameplay experience, and it's set in an interesting era, I think. And I'm just huge on space combat. That's what my first channel is mostly about. And we play Empire at War, which is a space strategy game mostly, on my second channel. So clearly it's interesting to me. So it was, right up my alleyway. We haven't gotten anything, like that since, I don't really know. It's been ages. I mean, the last entry in the X-Wing series was X-Wing Alliance. So yeah, I was really excited.
I'm really pleased that EA decided to make another kind of more specialized game that, although it is multiplayer, it's kind of a very unique experience that's definitely not going to be for everyone. I think, they're appealing to a very specific audience with Squadrons, and, everyone who plays Battlefront 2 definitely isn't going to pick up Squadrons and give that a go, just because it's a lot more gamey in a lot of ways. It's, there's a steeper learning curve to actually be able to fly a cockpit. I know a lot of people didn't necessarily like Starfighter Assault in Battlefront 2 just because they don't like flying ships, and the fact that this game is locking that into first person and giving you that personalized experience, which I'm super excited for, and I'm sure so many people are. It's, really creating that fantasy of piloting an X-Wing or a TIE fighter, and especially in VR, that's going to take things to a new dimension and just, evolve gaming, hopefully. This is one of the first real, full-on VR experiences we're going to get across all consoles and crossplay.
Oh, definitely.
That's, it's very exciting.
It's super cool to see how we've got VR that was introduced. It's been around for a while, if you're going all the way back to Nintendo Virtual Boy. And the idea of it has been before even that. But you have this thing that's just been you buy it, and then you make all your friends play it, and then you smile as they experience something that you really enjoy. And now we have things like Half-Life Alyx and this game. I think those two are going to be the tentpole games of pushing forward what we're going to expect from VR games. It's going to be really cool. Another thing I really liked about Squadrons, when I first saw it, we heard rumblings of it. There were people speculating when it was going to come out, and just generally curious about it. I was a huge player of the Battlefront 2015 Starfighter game mode. I love that. And then when Battlefront 2 first came out, that was one of my favorite game modes. Obviously, as the support waned for that, my interest for it really waned. So I didn't really play a whole lot of it more recently. Now that Squadron's coming back, I'm jumping back into it. But it's super awesome to see that people who are really, really into the Starfighter experiences, that huge immersion, the experience that we got with the Battlefront 2015 VR experience. I put that on PSVR, and I had a pin in my head, and I went to go drop it on the cockpit of the X-Wing. I was just so immersed in the game, I was just went to go drop it off.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right about VR, because I've got a Quest, which I'm hoping will work with Squadrons, because it's not a it's a self-contained headset, but apparently you can plug it into your computer or whatever with Oculus Link or something. But anyway, VR did kind of start off a little gamey. there were games that were built around it or that worked really, really well for it just because of like some intricacy of like the game. Like Super Hot is one that I can think of.
Yes.
Or what are essentially like glorified tech demos. And I don't mean that in a negative way with like those job simulator games. But what we're seeing with like Half-Life Alyx, and even more so with this game arguably, is just like, this is a game that wasn't designed around VR, but which VR can enhance just because it works so well. Because this game really gets past one of the main hurdles of VR in the fact that the player doesn't need to move. You can sit in your chair and you're getting the full VR experience. Mm-hmm. Because that's, I think, one of the main issues that most VR headsets have trouble getting around, because it's either really weird to use a controller to walk while you've got some sort of headset on, or, you know, you've got a very limited play space.
Definitely. And
no.
The controller moving part will definitely push it to where like you are more likely to get nauseous through that.
For sure.
Are you guys going full HOTAS as well? Have you guys invested in a HOTAS setup?
I'm thinking about it.
I have not. I'm very much considering it.
We didn't get to try it, unfortunately. Did anyone get to try HOTAS yet? I'm curious how well it works. Like,
I don't think so.
We played with controller, and I thought it felt perfect. I know, because the tech demo we played didn't have mouse and keyboard. Or sorry, it had mouse and keyboard and controller, but not HOTAS and not VR. But I mean, apparently VR works really well for flight sims. I guess it's like one of the best ways to get your legs for VR. But I know like mouse and keyboard in this game is not going to be something you want to play. Everything that I've heard is just that mouse and keyboard doesn't work very well, but controller does. Yeah. So if you can afford a HOTAS, I mean, you'll probably be fine with a controller. I didn't feel like I was limited.
Andrew, you seem like you've been really, really considering it. What are your thoughts?
Oh no, I went out and bought one on a limb. I'm just like, as soon as they said it's HOTAS, I'm like, yep, doing it, done, lock it in, because I kind of just, you know, the fact that it's VR and also has that support, I kind of just wanted to be able to experience the full experience and see. I've never used one, you know, I used a joystick when I was a kid. I had a steering wheel on my PC, but apart from that, I've never really used these real, you know, flight sim or gaming accessories. So I kind of just wanted that, you know, completely immersive experience. I'm considering even getting like these things that hang off your table. You can kind of clamp onto your table so that the joysticks are at your sides and not like you're not raising your arms on the desk above you. We'll see. I don't know how far I'm gonna go. I don't know if I'm gonna go full nerd yet, but
build like an actual cockpit in your house.
Embrace it.
Yeah, exactly. Just, you know, that's it. My life. This game is, you know, just gonna take it over. But in terms of VR, like, I think what this game hopefully will do as well is just start to bring VR out of that gimmick that Eck was talking about before as well. And yeah, not to take anything away from the job simulator games and so many of the other games that are in VR, but I think we all agree that like up until this point, it has felt very tech demo-y, right? Well, like we had the, you know, even the Battlefront VR mission, it's 15 minutes. It's a test, and it was like it's almost like a building a portfolio for like, hey, look at the potential of this, you know, software and hardware and what it can do. And now let's actually get the money and the investment to take this to another level. And I think it's interesting reading interviews with Ian Fraser, the Squadrons dev, him saying that the original build, obviously they built was just a Squadrons game, you know, on the screen, right? And then they were like, I wonder what we can do with VR. Can we spend another couple weeks putting this into VR? And they did. And then they showed it to whoever, you know, the higher ups, and they're like, yeah, amazing, let's do it. That to me is like, you know, exciting possibilities for continuing growth of VR in the future.
I don't know if you guys saw, but Ian Fraser, the lead dev, also announced that they'll be using Voice Attack, which is basically a program that you can program on your computer. I've never used it. I've got a basic understanding just based on what I read today. So you can talk into your mic, say something like full power to shields, and it will, you know, put in whatever key macros or inputs in so that the game actually does your command. So you can program as many commands as you want. So you could have it, you know, fire torpedo, and it, you know, hits the key for torpedo, or shields front and it'll put shields front. Or apparently people in some other games that use it will even include more complex things like do roll maneuver or whatever, and it will, you know, hit certain keys at once. And I also
That's
saw that there's
amazing.
somebody who's developing a droid pack for it, like a fan droid pack. So basically, you'll say R2 shields front, and then a sound will play back to you. So you can get VR, you can get HOTAS, you can get your R2 unit talking to you. Lot to do.
They've
there.
really gone all out. They've really gone all out. Like it, that's kind of what's just surprised me so much. And I think, that shows something about EA's reputation as well, doesn't it? The fact that they've copped so much flack for these kinds of games and, obviously all the microtransaction stuff, everything that we went on, we're not going to talk about that. But this game is like the ultimate fantasy that they're building. And learning that, I've had people asking me if the voice support like that will be included, and now that you've told me that, I'm it's like talking to your astromech. What an experience.
Yeah, I'm working with the guy to make a video on it, and I've heard some of the stuff, and it's really cool. You'll even be able to switch whether you're a New Republic or Empire.
It's such an interesting thing. So we've got EA has had the license since 2013. We've had Battlefront 2015, we've had Battlefront 2, and we've had Jedi Fallen Order. We're having this game as well. It's interesting to see we've got these gigantic blockbuster. Well, Battlefront 2 was the everything Star Wars game. So it tried to be everything. And it suffered for that because they couldn't really multitask with the different game modes. If they were supporting one game mode, they were not supporting another game mode. And then you see this has been a topic on our podcast for quite a few episodes, but the idea of rather than having one game that does everything, maybe what would be very interesting is to have very specific games that support a niche audience. So with this game, maybe going forward, we have this going to be the Starfighter game. For now, Battlefront is the online multiplayer shooter game. We've got Jedi Fallen Order being the single-player game. Maybe going forward, we have more of those types of experiences. What do you guys think?
It's going to be interesting to see. So one thing I will say, EA have said they're going to double down on Star Wars games in the next few years, right? Which is a statement they made, I'm assuming, because they know that the license is going up for either renewal or expiring in 2023. So they either have to, in the next few years, produce several more really good Star Wars games to make up for what's happened in the last few years, or, kind of try and make up for that in some way. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about is a lot of people obviously call the mid-2000s like the golden age for Star Wars gaming, right? And the year 2005, there was Battlefront 2, the original, released, the Revenge of the Sith tie-in game. A lot of people love that on PlayStation, and I think it was on another console as well. You had Lego Star Wars, the original Lego Star Wars video game. And also there was one more, Republic Commando, all released in 2005.
Yeah, Empire War was 06
Knowing that, there you go. Knowing that all those games back then released in that time period in such a short amount of time, within the space of a year or two, and seeing EA so far, they've had the license for 7 years, they've only put out 3 games. A lot of people argue that they haven't done nearly enough with the license, right? Do you think that that's because gaming now is so different? It's online. All of those games back then were, generally more focused on the single player experience. It was just a different time for gaming. They're more basic games, whereas, you compare them to modern day Battlefront 2, it's another, it's a much bigger kind of to build, right? Would you argue that that's the reason why there haven't been as many Star Wars games, or do you think that kind of reality of 2005 could still exist now?
I think it's kind of a mix, because if you look at even what LucasArts put out, by the time that they lost, or that LucasArts folded, they weren't putting out very many games either.
They became a publishing platform, basically.
Yeah, I just don't think with how much work a AAA studio, or how much work a AAA game requires, that it's feasible for one publisher, even one as large as EA, to actively manage as many games as LucasArts could manage in the past. And I like EA, especially after the whole Battlefront 2 fiasco. I think they get way too much crap now. I have people saying, I'm not going to buy Squadrons because it's got microtransactions. I'm like, one, they've confirmed it won't have any, and two, Battlefront has been a great game, and Fallen Order had nothing. But they've they've got that perhaps rightly earned reputation. But yeah, even as much as I love EA, and it would be in my self-interest for them to continue having the Star Wars brand, because I'm a game changer, so I get to play all the stuff early and get exclusive content and whatever. I still think they should probably spread it out to a few different companies, because I don't see what the harm is in it. I don't think Star Wars fans are going to be satiated by video games. I think Star Wars fans would buy one or two video games a year easily. So there needs to be more.
Like you said, there's a couple sides to it. Like you've got the question of, do you think we can have that many in a single year? Yes, but they would have to quadruple down instead of double down. They would have to open like specific studios just for those. They wouldn't have DICE running Battlefield and Battlefront. They would have to have like Battlefront 2 developer. They would have to have X developer, like specifically created. And I think there's an idea that, I mean, if any company were to be able to do it, just one company, it would be EA. But that runs into an issue, in my opinion.
Like complacency.
So, exactly. They don't have any competition. If they opened it up where EA maybe has like, EA can still produce all of these games, but now Lucas, I don't know if LucasArts is still a thing, but there is an internal group that is based out of Lucasfilm that is specifically for the video games. It's still around. That's who they talk to. They're also a pain in the butt to work with. That's another reason. Consistently through the history of Star Wars video games, Lucasfilm has been the hitch, the pothole in the road for all of these different types of games. You see that with like 1313, the history of like how that game basically crumbled apart because George Lucas himself was like, oh yeah, change that and change that and change that. Oh yeah, now this game's going to be based on Boba Fett. We're like, we just made an entire story arc about this character we made, and now you want us to throw it out the window? Yeah. I've heard similar things through the creation of these Star Wars games. Is like, it's super frustrating to work with Lucasfilm. Especially with like Battlefront 2015, because they had that whole thing. Like everything needed to be canon. Like there was a reason that they didn't have any prequel or sequel trilogy, anything in that. It's because it had to be canon. Even though you have Palpatine on Jakku when he was obviously dead by the end of the trilogy.
Yeah, sure. I don't think you should let canon get in the way of fun. Like games like it. Honestly, like if you look at like Star Wars games on the N64, Rogue Squadron is a really good example. The games could fit really well within canon. And there were even some Star Wars Legends connections in Rogue Squadron because you played some of the Dark Empire missions where you're on Mon Calamari or whatever else. But like they didn't let canon get in the way of a good time. If you want to have Rogue Squadron somewhere where they wouldn't necessarily have been, do it. Kriegsmarine was already technically rescued from the Empire once in Legends, but like they did it again because it'd be a really cool mission. And it's like video games to me, like as long as they're fun, especially for multiplayer video games. Like if they said Star Wars Squadron, nothing in Star Wars Squadrons is canon, I wouldn't have cared, at least for multiplayer. So like if
I think that's part of their current initiative though, isn't it, to keep everything within that, because they're trying more Disney, like the Disney side of Lucasfilm, whatever, are trying to just continue to build this world, right? Everything they put out that's Star Wars, they want to be Disney canon Star Wars, right?
Yeah, that's their whole idea. But like you can keep that, but keep maybe like the campaign is the only thing that's canon, and then you have like, oh yeah, this character was dead, and so they would never be able to fight this character, like just for the sake of gameplay. But I think that's something that they've struggled with.
Going back to games like The Force Unleashed and stuff like that, do we know? I can't remember from back then, but was everything at the time canon? Like I know Starkiller
there
was,
were like
and
levels of canon.
Like his story was, but that game also had like alternate endings and stuff, which were like some were canon, some weren't. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like they were selective about, okay, yes, this can fall into it, but we're also going to give players this experience because it's fun, even though it messes with continuity. That's kind of, I think something people can accept. Even the Revenge of the Sith game from 2005 had an alternate ending where Anakin kills Obi-Wan and Palpatine and becomes like basically the Emperor, I guess. What a game. You know, that wouldn't get made now, but everyone remembers it because it's so much fun. And of course you want to figure out how to unlock a secret ending to a game and have Anakin become like the supreme overlord of the galaxy. Like, what an experience.
Yeah, those are games that like probably don't fit into canon very well, but like I'm still happy they exist. Like The Force Unleashed doesn't really mesh with like anything else that happens. Like Starkiller doesn't really work very well like in the greater universe. But like
They've specifically said he was too powerful to bring into canon.
right, but like I'm still happy those games exist. Like I have no trouble. It's all a fictional universe. I've got no trouble thinking that this fake thing exists less than this other fake thing.
This fake thing has to...
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
It's a little ludicrous. But like, so the way the old canon would do it is that there would be sort of levels of canon. So it would be like the films would supersede the books, and, you know, with comics, and then different levels of canon. And they argue that that's not what's going on with the new canon, but like the movies have already overwritten things several times. Like a good example,
definitely.
The Clone Wars overwrote stuff about like how Ahsoka disposed of her lightsaber and whatever else. So I wish they'd just be honest with themselves and just stop trying to pretend that it's not a fictional universe, I guess.
Make it so much easier for the game developers too, because they're like, oh, hey, look, this is a really cool game idea that everyone's requesting, and they're like, sorry, pal, this fake thing is not canon.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's interesting. You were saying before about like the days of LucasArts and how dealing with Lucasfilm has been the hitch and everything, right? I spoke to Dan Borth a few months ago. He was the creator of the cancelled Darth Maul game. I don't know if you guys remember hearing stuff about that.
Oh my gosh.
I got to interview him. Yeah. So that game had kind of a similar journey to what 1313 had, but he had nothing but praise to say what his dealings were with Lucasfilm and LucasArts. He said they'd fly out there, they'd have meetings for several days, they'd talk about the game, the new story directions and everything. LucasArts would be excited about all their ideas and, you know, say, yes, we'll do this one, whatever. They'd fly back, they'd make the game, and then they'd show them that, and then, like, it'd be either, like, George would intervene. Obviously, things have changed now. He's not, you know, directly involved in these kinds of projects anymore, but he'd be like, that game had a wild ride. You know, it started off as a Maul origin story, then it was a Clone Wars tie-in, then it was a Darth Talon tie-in, even though her character...
Because George just loved Darth Talon. He tried to get her in episode 7 as well.
Exactly. Oh, God.
The concept art, I'm not joking.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah, like that kind of journey and just knowing that getting approvals for, you know, something I guess they're trying to keep continuity wise, that's where the difficulty arises. But apparently, yeah, George Lucas hated The Force Unleashed after it released as well, and before he had a meeting with Lucas, there were Lucasfilm executives rushing all of this Force Unleashed art out of the room and trying to just like get it out so that George arrived, it wouldn't be there. Yeah, exactly. Like, what? You know? Yeah.
Quick, before he makes it about Boba Fett. Run!
Don't put the idea in his head.
Yeah. He's going to make Chewbacca be Force sensitive.
Oh, no. After he kills him. Bring his back from the dead.
But, like, even The Force Unleashed had some pretty good Legends references. Like, Garm Bel Iblis, who's a well-known Legends character from the Thrawn trilogy, is in there in the flesh. So, you know, you can do it and, like, without being, you know, Nazis over it. Like, not to put too fine a point on it, I guess.
After talking about that and those past experiences going into Squadrons, and do you think it's accomplished its original goal, which is fulfilling the wannabe pilots in Star Wars dreams?
I'll give a slight spoiler warning if anyone wants to click off, because we got to play the prologue, and if you don't want that spoiled, maybe just come back in a few minutes. But we got to play the prologue, and the very first scene is like you're leaving the hangar of this Imperial Star Destroyer, and it's like, it's crazy. Like, that is probably one of my favorite Star Wars video game moments, because you leave the hangar, you're in this TIE fighter, like the Star Destroyer is rendered in its full proper scale below you. which I asked Ian, by the way. He confirmed all the ships are properly scaled. And you're flying amongst this fleet of like a dozen ships, and there's new cruisers like hyperspacing in next to you. It's just so cool. And if there's more moments like that in the game, which I assume there will be, because there's another one right after with the Rebel fleet, I think it definitely will fulfill its promise. And then multiplayer is very, very. It's just you feel like it, like when you form up on one of your squadron mates and you make a run on like a Star Destroyer or something, like it feels really cool.
Yeah, I mean, after playing, together as well, and just seeing other starfighters around you, when we're on voice chat and everything, and knowing that, all right, he's on this wing, I'm on that wing, and we're flying into battle together, that is such a fantasy fulfilling experience, flying into combat with your friends. And yeah, the story really kind of puts you in these Star Wars set pieces, and it's in the name. It's squadrons, right? You're in a fleet. You fly out of a Star Destroyer or a Mon Calamari or whatever it is, and kind of just get that experience of we're in space, we're flying around a fleet of our own ships, and having that. It's very immersive.
It's gonna be very fun on voice chat as well. Like if you can get a full squadron of 5, it is gonna be so much fun. Like I'm legitimately gonna be addicted to this game when it comes out.
Do you see there being a possibility for like esports of this game? Because that's been a topic that a lot of people have been speculating about. Obviously, they don't have private matches at least announced quite yet, which I think would be a huge hitch to it actually becoming an esports thing. But as it is, do you see it at least having the potential for esports?
There's a very, very high skill difference, and it's all due to how good a player is. A very good player in Squadrons will beat a bad player in Squadrons 100 times out of 100. Like we were talking to Ian afterwards, we had a bit of a Q&A, and he talked about how the testers will come in, like the QA people who've been playing the game for a while. They'll come in and they'll beat new testers without losing a single ship. And we felt a bit of that when we were in some of the better squads. And the game plays a lot like a MOBA, which is something that I was kind of surprised in, like almost like a League of Legends or a Dota. The fleet battles mode in particular, because you're very, very punished for dying. There's what's called a morale meter. So when you die, not only are you out for 15 seconds, which is a long time in a fast-paced game, but you also get a massive morale boost to the other team. So like 3 or 4 deaths is a huge, huge difference. But if you play more consciously, you can get back, you can heal up. If you fly with a squadron member, you're much more likely to survive. And then like if you're in the middle of the map, almost because the Nadiri Shipyards map even has 3 different lanes with almost like a jungle in the middle where you can farm AI players for points. So it's a very, very skill based. It's going to be very competitive especially once people get, when there's squads of 5-on-5 with full voice chat, there's lots of interesting things you can do with like the targeting systems, the marking system, the ping system. It's going to be really competitive, and I'm curious to see just how far they can take the competitive scene, because I'm definitely interested in it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for that too. I don't know much about esports and that kind of side of gaming, but based on having played this game, I think it leans more towards the flight sim than the arcade. It's not Starfighter Assault like we've talked about. There is a very steep learning curve to it if you want to get to the upper echelons of being one of those amazing players. You can be that. You can become an ace pilot, and just the control system as well. The fact you're pointing your shields in different directions, you're changing your power between your engines, your the ping system, even the fact you can change objectives and select to only target certain parts of a capital ship or capital ships or AI characters or other players or your team. There's a system where you can shout for help and it'll ping you. Those kinds of things I think work so well in a team environment, and that is all going to contribute to it being pushed into potentially an esports market. I'd love to see it happen. Like, are there any current Star Wars games that are esports?
Not really,
I don't think so. Right?
No.
And if it's going to happen, this could definitely be the one.
There's so many little things too. Like, one thing that I was told is if you're playing a support player as a support ship, have it so your ship only targets friendly starfighters so you can find them more easily. And there's just so many little things you can do. And plus, there's I think, how many components are there, Andrew? 60 maybe? There's enough to that there will be a pretty healthy meta of like, if you want to play as an X-Wing, you can be a heavy assault X-Wing with, slower engines in favor for more shields and more not more weapons, but more shields, a bit more sturdiness. Maybe, you swap your guns out so they're better against capital ships. Then you'll have, on the other hand, like your anti-starfighter X-Wing, and you can have all of that for each different ship type. So there's a lot of room for like a meta. There's a lot of, like Andrew mentioned, a good player can beat a bad player in so many different ways, whether it's angling their shields or, precise control over energy systems or just different maneuvers that you can do as well. Like one really advanced technique that I pulled off once because I was very lucky is if you're being chased by a torpedo and you're going with your boost, you can cut your engines, turn all the way around, set your targeting so you can find the torpedo more easily than shoot it out of the air, which is...
Oh, wow.
So there's like a lot of... Yeah, because the torpedoes are actually projectiles, right?
That's amazing. Yeah. You did that.
That's like
incredible.
Yeah.
Ultimate Star Wars moment.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like, and the good players will be doing that all the time.
Yeah.
Why waste the chaff if you can just shoot it yourself?
That's so true.
That's awesome. Do you feel like they've nailed that gameplay hook and the 5v5 areas of the game? Do you think 5v5 was like the peak number?
Yeah, I do, because I think more gets a little too... I can see an argument for more. Personally, I feel like 5v5 is really... It's almost like a Halo... Like, I was playing Halo 3, and I was like, why is this reminding me so much of Squadrons? Because it is very similar to that, like, very tight... It's smaller gameplay. If they'd gone 12 by 12, you could have had maybe larger fleet battles or whatever, but...
Yeah, I think it fits. Having played it now, I think anything higher would feel too crowded. And even playing in the dogfights game mode, which is basically team deathmatch, you're constantly either chasing someone or have someone on your tail. And it's not like the maps are small. Like, there's still a lot of space. When you're in space as well, it does feel like you're flying slow. I've noticed a lot of people saying, oh, it looks like, why are the ships so slow? They're really not. I think it's just because the maps are kind of so fast and space is so big that, when you get up close to a capital ship or another structure, you realize, oh crap, I'm actually going quite fast. And you're just not noticing that. But any more players and I think it'd become crowded. In fleet battles as well, the AI definitely, makes it a little more dense just in the middle of the section.
Capital
of the map.
ships too.
You're flying. Yeah, true. Oh, that's the other
capital
thing.
Ships
So it's not only the capital ships
or the corvettes. Yeah.
It's the support ships as well, though, right? Yeah, the corvettes and the other
frigates,
the frigates. If you get anywhere near them,
you're not going at full speed.
There is so much constant.
If you're not going at full speed.
There's so much laser fire going around. Like it already feels busy. Playing fleet battles as well, jumping in, you're going to die immediately the first time you play.
Yeah.
Like, you'll fly at a ship and you'll be dead in 10 seconds. And that's kind of, something you're going to have to learn to experience. All right, how do I get around the other side of the ship? How do I divert their fire somewhere else and try and get the one up on them? There's definitely like that meta to it.
Ultimately, if they made more players, the maps, I don't think they could make much denser. I think they're at a sweet spot right now. So if they wanted to add an extra 2 players on fleet battles, they'd have to add like that extra lane, for example, on Nadiri shipyards, and I just don't think there's any real benefit there, because that's not that's not a better experience for you. That's just there's more going on in the battle. Do
you feel like the AI is a necessary addition to the game? Do you think it would have worked better without them?
The ship AI is definitely necessary. Like the cruiser and the corvette and because the corvettes will actually fly around the entire battlefield, and even the capital ships move as the battle goes on. They're necessary. I didn't get killed too often by the kind of middling ship AI in the middle. I think they're probably honestly mostly there to help with farming and to help keep people out of the middle of the map camping. So on the Nadiri shipyards map, I don't know if they're vital, but I'm happy they're in there, and there are a lot of them. We asked, I forget who asked how many there are on each map, and Ian didn't give an exact answer, but he said several dozen, I think, on each side. Less than 50, but more than a dozen on each side.
Really? Even playing it doesn't feel that way. I mean, it feels like there's a lot, and it's very dense, but there's no way I noticed, like, I thought it would have been only like maybe 10.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot.
Obviously, a really hardcore community is going to be for this game. Do you think that there's going to be a casual community with this, or do you think it's going to be more of the hardcore gamer going for this?
Really good question. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
It's tough to say because, like, I feel like, I mean, we've only spent several hours with the game, so it's hard to say at the early stages. But like we've said, it is a difficult game. There is a learning curve to it. Yes, you can play as a beginner, but if you go up against anyone with a higher skill level than you, you're going to get killed. So
me and Andrew are going to be blasting boys for like a good week.
we'll give it a go. But yeah, I think it definitely favors the more skilled player and the more hardcore audience. In terms of casual gamers, people looking for that fantasy fulfilling experience, I mean, perhaps that's what the single player is. That's more for the casual gamer. But also the dogfights mode as well. I found like it's much easier jumping into a game of that than it is a fleet battles mode, and much easier to just know what's going on. So perhaps that will appeal to more of that audience.
We'll say there is also ranked. There is ranked matchmaking as well. So it's just like, even if I'm a bad, CS:GO player, a bad Halo player, I'm not. I'm very good at Halo. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can still jump into ranked and have fun.
Halo and Mario Kart.
I wish I was as good at Halo as I was at Mario Kart. I'd be raking it in right now. But yeah, so I think there is a spot for everyone. I do think the game will definitely appeal more to purists than maybe a little less casual friendly than Battlefront 2, which was very casual friendly, I would say. Maybe too much so.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not giving that experience. So like it's much steeper than Battlefront 2. You're not going to be just jumping into a game and running around a Battlefront. It's like, this is an experience playing this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
At any point during playing the game, so you had obviously never played the game before you played the game. Was there any moment with you playing against the other people who maybe some of the developers were playing with you? Was there any moment where you're getting frustrated from the experience?
I wouldn't say if I got frustrated, but there was one time I was playing against. I just, to be frank, I just had some really new people on my team. I mean, I was new too, but who were definitely new to flying games, and we were just getting creamed. But like, I just can't really get frustrated at those kind of events. Like, it was the same with the Battlefront 2 thing. I'm sure Andrew remembers this too. There'd be certain events where like the way the matchmaking would work, it'd be like a bunch of journalists versus a bunch of YouTubers, and the journalists would just get like destroyed. So it's hard to get frustrated during those events because I know who we're playing with.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Battlefront 2 launch event, we had a lot of fun just farming journalists. You know what I mean? It's like, oh look, there's another one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the guy that wrote that article.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. But yeah, this game, it's not. It depends. I guess it does depend on who's on your team, but at the same time, it's like, I think it's going to work best with a squad of friends as well.
Mm-hmm.
Playing this over a mic is the experience you want playing this game, because that's what it's all about. It's about being in a squadron and having that, experience like you see in A New Hope, where all the pilots are talking to each other over the radio and just, being tactical about how they attack the Death Star and watching everyone die as Luke finally gets the win. That's the experience you want in this. You want someone delivering that final blow that is just so exhilarating and so exciting, and
coming up with
it's
your
been
own
a team
like
effort to get there.
Gamer tags, like pilot names, and being able to. I know there's definitely going to be like a really hard like cosplay without the costume.
Yeah, you mean like role play?
Yeah, role play. There's definitely going to be a really hardcore role play scene, I think, for this game.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
not into that, but
I've got so many
that,
options. The customization options, cosmetic as well, I think give you that option. Like, you could have a whole team of Celestins, Celestin pilots. That'd be, those types of experience, or wearing the same colored uniform and same helmets or whatever it is, same colored X-Wings, and, I'm excited for kind of the clans that are going to come out of this game, and just, I'm sure there'll be communities online where you can just join and you're like, this is Pink Squadron and this is Red Squadron, and,
Yeah, when the game comes out, like, my plan is there's like 4 or 5 of us, like, and plus whoever else wants to join, really. We're all going to stream it. call ourselves whatever. I like Grog Squadron personally because that way I can like drink some beers and play or whatever. If I'm a little
I've noticed X2 has a real alcohol theme. Like you just like going real heavy on the between playing.
It's
Bureau card with friends and Sea of Thieves.
I
with
can't
friends.
really go out during
Sea of Drunks
during coronavirus.
Is that what you call it?
No, I think we just call it drunk Sea of Thieves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think that's just can't go out during coronavirus, and it's fun. But no, I know what you mean. I think the Grog Squadron would be a bit of a nod to that. But yeah, like we're definitely gonna get right into it. Like I know Templin Institute's in our kind of one of our squad. He's gonna probably commission someone to design a friggin' logo.
Awesome. Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
So we're part of the Wayfinder group of creators, and we're going to be putting together some really fun content around that and getting some squads together. It's so fun to be able to have this game where you can do stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons I really hope that they add private matches, because it would be so fun. Like we have lots more people than say 5 in a squadron. And if you can have like 10 friends, maybe you can go against each other. Like that would be really fun to do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that is what comes with a budget game, but I wish it wasn't a budget game because like the lack of ongoing support really sucks as well. Even if there's no new starfighters, like it would just be a kind of a nice way to keep the game fresh. I mean, that's why you got to convince everyone to buy it, because if the game sells like hotcakes, they're not going to stop supporting it.
Exactly. That's all for this episode, but stay tuned because we'll have a continuation of our talk next time. You can find links to both Justin and Andrew's channels in the description, and stay tuned on their channels for some awesome content as well. You can find us on Twitter at SWB Podcast, as well as on Instagram, where we keep you up to date on our weekly streams every Saturday on YouTube. You can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Battlefront Podcast, like friend of the podcast Daniel Schilling, patreon.com/Battlefront Podcast. You can also support us on PayPal, paypal.me/tie-dye sheep, TYEDYESHEEP. Also, we're soon to be rebranding the Patreon along with the podcast, so stay tuned for some awesome content on there. We want to get that back in full swing, so you have a lot of fun stuff there. A completely free way to support the show is by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you find podcasts and can leave reviews. We would greatly appreciate it. You can contact us on Instagram, Twitter, comments on this episode, as well as through our email, battlefrontpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts and topic suggestions, what you thought about Squadrons, and much more. If you've got something on your mind that you'd like us to talk about, hit us up on any of the social medias and email. Like I said previously, we stream every Saturday on YouTube, youtube.com/the Star Wars Battlefront Podcast. We've also got some cool content lined up with collaborations with Wolf, as well as some other awesome YouTubers. So stay tuned for that. We've got a lot planned over there as well. You can listen to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Wherever you find podcasts, you can find this show. As always, thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.